temperature. And it is the side of infestation is the pellets, fecal pellets, and another side is the kick out holes in the wooden particles. So it is mainly of, not the species, mainly of the drywood termites. Then another, it is also encountered in my house, even in the granite, this Heterodermis indicola is obtained and completely destruct the paper and structural parts of buildings. Another one is the Coptotermis beckeri. Actually, I have not much experience in the practice way, just through the literature, I just say that it is replacing of the damaged wood items. Already mentioned how to damage by using the insecticide and importance to avoid the insecticide application, already mentioned. So I think taxonomic work is not nowadays, it's still actively ongoing, but we need to explore more other things, that is especially already told termitophiles, then barcoding work is, we have the challenge to complete that process, barcoding of Indian termites, then what is ingulins, it's also interesting, then their nesting pattern, their behavioral study, not all this type of work is not occurred in India, and not completely, it's most of the cases is not, compared to other countries, no, it's very incomplete data from India. Then in addition to this, very significant part of this termite is their gut microbiomes, I think. So not much in India and in Kerala, that type of study is not occurred. So the newcomers and have a chance to start this type of works, because they are the key factor to define which food items that they used based on their gut microbiomes, and this gut microbiome has the property to helps to convert our biological things by decomposition process, act as a bioconversion agents. So need to study more about their profiling of gut microbiomes, and also their isolation of important compounds from them, and their application in their biotechnological and pharmaceutical level. So that's all, but thank you. Yes. I'm not saying completely absent, but still some of them have very few number of. So that is I am telling that we need to explore more and more about all these things, no? Yes, that is your chance, and for further study. Yes. Sometimes we could collect the soldier by dumping in net about 10 centimeter in depth, no? Just only that we could at least 2 or 3 soldier casts is available. We could spend more time to collect the soldier cast of this group. Yes. Stay back. Yeah. Okay. I take this opportunity to express my sincere thankful to Kaleshwara Swami sir and the entire organizing team to invite me and being a part of this program. I'm very happy. Thank you, sir. And thank you, the entire team.
So she was working at IWSP as a PhD student. So she used to collect termites and come to GKVK for identification. She used to identify termites for her. But later she was herself get married, and later from IWSP of her PhD she moved to Institute of Private Research and Organization, part of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So there she was working as a scientist. So she will share about the wood preservation techniques.
Thank you, sir. Compared to all of you, my area of research is totally different. All of you see termite as an ecosystem engineers, ketone species. I see them as a pest. Although I worked on the ecosystem services, when I joined my new institute 2017, my director asked me, tell me something about termite. I started. They are the keystone species, the ecosystem engineers. My director told, stop that. We are seeing them as a pest and you have to see them only as a pest. So my institute clearly tells me I have to see them as a pest. And as Amina madam told, 12% of the insect termites are actually wood feeders, and they are problematic to the structures. It's not that the termites are bad to us. When they interfere with our properties, which are economic important to us, then only they are considered as pests. Why we call them as a pest? In India, I don't know, you have the data that how much amount of services they are providing. But you know that in India, the amount of wood produced, out of that, 33% of the wood exclusively goes for replacement of the eaten structures or the damaged structures. And most of them damages comes from the termites. India is a low productive country, forest productivity is very low. So losing that amount of wood just to replace is not a economic or viable option. And 33% of loss is a major loss. So what we have to do? We have to protect the wood. See, whenever we talk that the forests are important. When we are using 33% of the forest product to replace the wood, that means we are using or cutting unnecessarily trees just to replace, not to produce new product. If something is produced out of the tree, that is new product, the value is more. If you are using as a replacement, the value of the product is less. So to avoid that, you have to protect the wood, and by protecting the wood, you can protect 12% of the, you can reduce the cutting down of the forest up to 12%. See, what do you mean by protection? Protection means preventing it from the insect or the other kind of attack. Usually we talk that the forest chemicals are bad, but chemicals are not bad. They are protecting your wood. Indirectly, they are also protecting your forest. There are different methods of forest protection. Chemicals are one of them. If you are using very harmful chemicals to protect the wood, then it is bad. If you are using the chemicals which are not that highly damaging to the environmental health, then it is acceptable. Always, whenever you see, there is always a line where it was given how much you can use, how much you should use. If you are using the chemicals to protect the crops also, nobody tells that don't use the chemicals to protect the crops, because it gives the food and in turns it survives most of the human society. Similarly, protection of the wood is also important, and protection means enhancing the durability of wood with the help of chemicals, so that we can lengthen the service life of the wood, protect it from the fungi and insects, and guard against the weathering. When we talk about the wood degradation, there are two types. One, abiotic, another biotic. Biotic because of your living organism. Abiotic because of climate. Like UV rays, water, rain, whatever those things are there, no, those also affect the wood. You have to use protection to prevent the wood loss. So you have to use preservative. What kind of preservative you should use? A preservative should be highly effective. It could kill different kind of animals, the broad spectrum. It should be easy to handle, and it should be easily available. If it is a very costly, like we are talking about the pheromones and all, they are not easy to handle, not easy to, not pocket friendly. They are very costly. That when any material or any product which you produce becomes costly, the person or the end user never want to use that product. So I was asked to deal about the wood preservative. In your agriculture sector, you use the different kind of polished terms like, okay, this kind of pheromone kind of, botanical kind of, and all those preservative. In wood industry, it's a kind of crude industry. It uses only 3 types of preservative mainly: tar oil, organic solvent, and the waterborne. Tar oil means it's nothing but a bituminous oil. You might have seen that black color oil. Most of your old houses, if you see, made up of wooden, they will have that black coating. That is nothing but the tar oil. The tar oil is very long lasting, effective against the all kind of fungus and the insect, but it is not used at every point, because the tar oil gives the black coloration. That results in the reduction of the aesthetic value of your wooden material. And after the usage of the tar oil, it is not possible to paint it over. So then there are waterborne chemicals. Waterborne chemicals means these are the salts which are dissolved in water. There are 2 types of waterborne chemicals: leachable and fixative. Leachable means with the water or the rain which will come out of the wood, and fixed means it won't come out even after the contact with the water. See, what is the benefit of waterborne chemicals? They are colorless, odorless, it can be painted over, but the problem is it has to be dyed properly. The wood is an organic material. It has the ability to absorb the water and give out the water. While painting, if you put more water and if you dry directly on the sunlight, there is a chance that wood will get the wrapping, means folding, or the cracks will break. To avoid that, you have to dry it in the shade, or it will be cool dried. Then we have organic solvent. The wood preservative which are mixed with the spirit, just like your paint. The paint you will mix with the kerosene or other kind of some white color spirit they will give, you know. Similarly, this preservative has to be mixed with the spirits and they have to apply it. These are the very useful. They are easily paintable and they can use in the indoors. But they have smell because of the spirit, and because of that kerosene or the spirit nature, it is easily flammable. So these are the three types of materials we are using. But all these chemicals are not accepted everywhere. Because of the health hazard, there are many problems. For example, you have CCA, copper chrome arsenate. The copper chrome arsenate is the wood preservative produced in the Forest Research Institute of India in the year 1938. And so far, none of the chemicals or the wood preservative are on par with the CCA. But we are not allowed to use the CCA considering the presence of the arsenic in that. So, CCA is not banned. Many people have the misconception that it is banned. No, it is not completely banned. Only it has a restricted use. It can be used in the areas where direct human contact humans won't come in contact with the CCA. So some of these chemicals are still in use. Botanicals are also tried, but they are not very effective to give the required amount of protection to the plant. See, I was also asked to cover the methods of application. Whenever timber is used, there are some methods we have to follow. Why we have to follow? Because we are given with the BIS rules. Bureau of Indian Standard IS 401 clearly talks any timber which you are using has to be treated, and that has to be treated in the particular manner given in BIS 401. One is the brush and spray, then the immersion and the diffusion. Brush and spray is the common technique where you are brushing the oil or the preservative. Then diffusion means you are putting the materials in the chemical. Then we have hot and cold process as well as the bruchery process. I won't go in these processes detail, but I just want to talk about wood restoration mode. What is the difference between wood preservation and the wood restoration? Wood preservation means you are treating the wood initially and producing the material out of it, or any wood which is used is that you are treating with the preservative. The restoration is totally different fact. Restoration means you have a wood which is already used, which is of historic importance, and you don't want to lose that. Here, when we talk about the restoration, it's not about the economic value. It's about its historic value, all the histories it carries with itself. The preservation is of economic importance, whereas the restoration is of historic importance. See, we got some these beautiful structures, no? Wooden artifacts. These are the structures that are in the Lal Bagh. These structures as if don't have huge history. The upper four structures you can see, no? These are in the Lal Bagh, and the lower four are in the Kabban Park. What happened is these are the structures prepared from the trees which are there or planted by Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan in around 200 or 250 years back. Those trees planted by the Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan fell down in the year 2017 due to heavy rain. So what happened is, usually what is the procedure when the wood fell down on the forest department or any of the horticulture department? They usually call for the auction. They sell it to any of the timber yards. But these having the historic importance, they didn't wanted to sell that. So they call the architects throughout the India, even the architects from the Shantiniketan of West Bengal, Rabindranath Tagore Shantiniketan, they came and found the different structures, beautiful structures, and those structures were implanted or kept in the display in the Lal Bagh and the Kabban Park area. There are totally 70 structures. Out of that, 20 already gone. When we got this work, there were 50 wooden sculptures which they asked us to restore or the preserve. And this was a new work for us. We usually deal with the wood which need to be preserved or before use. Here we had the wood which was already produced into something which cannot be disturbed, and we have to decide how we have to treat them. So our modus operandi was to first see inspect the artifact, to see what kind of infestation was there. Then how to and design the experiments based on or design the treatment protocol based on the wood structure. When we inspected, we saw that termite attack was there on most of the structures. Fungal attack was there, carpenter bee attack was there, pinhole borer attack was there. These were the insects which in fact affect the wood. Other than that, when we talk about the abiotic degradation, these sculptures were kept in the open. So there was a rain falling on that, dust falling on that, over that sunlight was there. Because of that sunlight and the rain, there was an end crack, split, and the discoloration of the artifact was also seen on these sculptures. See, what exactly now we have to do is we have to treat where the split, discoloration and cracks are there. So we have to go for the primary processing. See, one thing you need to always understand that these are not the smaller structures. You have seen that Buddha structure. That is around 18 or 20 feet tall Buddha structure it is. That wisdom teeth next to Buddha, that is also around that much, 20 feet tall. All the structures were more than 8 or 10 feet tall. They were already placed at one point. They are already carved. You cannot simply clean them. If you want to dust them, you cannot simply dust them because there are minute carvings. You have to be very cautious, very clear, and you should design what after what you want to do. So the first thing was dusting. We have to dust them, then wet cleaning. The wet cleaning means usually you do it with the water, but here we poured lots of water. All the wood will absorb the water. Here in this structure, what happened is lots of insects were inhibiting. Those were not actually wood-eating organisms, but when the wood holes or the cracks formed, many insects started staying there. So the first step was to remove the insect out of that. So we gave the wood treatment or the water treatment. See, you can see these pictures now. You just see this picture and tell me what is the problem with this. Any guesses? Okay, I'll go to the next picture. The same picture. Now you tell me the difference. Oh no, discoloration is afterwards. This is after treatment. Here, the first thing is wood is kept directly on the contact with the soil. Whenever we are talking about the termites are the soil organism. A small point of entry is more than enough to destroy the whole structure. So the basic or the thumb rule you can tell is whenever we are using the wood for any of the components, structural or any of the component, they shouldn't be directly in contact with the soil. They should be always separated from the soil, or if they have to come in contact with the soil, the soil which you are using should be properly treated. So the first thing was we were supposed to treat the soil. So soil treatment can be done by two methods, by creating the chemical barrier or by creating the physical barrier. Chemical barrier was created by any of the chemicals which can be act as a insect repellent. So we used any insect repellent, did the soil treatment first, and to create the physical barrier there are many options, just like creating the mesh and all. All those were not practical for us. So we did the simple concrete structures we prepared, and over that concrete structure we asked them to eat those structures. The first thing is we were able to avoid the termite attack because of this simple technique. We always remember that if we follow the simple techniques and the simple rules prescribed, we don't get most of the damages occurred to any of our structures, like it be housing structures or any of the artifacts. The next was boric acid and the borax treatment. See, while starting the PPT, I told about 3 types of treatments: oil treatment, waterborne treatment, and the solvent treatment. So we were did the first thing was we did that soil treatment. But if anything comes in contact with the ground, another treatment is possible is tar oil, application of the tar oil. But while telling the tar oil, I also told that after the application of the tar oil, you cannot provide varnishes, and it interfere with the beauty of your artifact. So that was avoided. The next we went for borax acid and boric treatment. That is the most safest treatment which was given for any of the wooden artifact or any of the wooden material which we are using in the house. Like any bamboo kind of material if you are using to prepare a toy and all. What is specified treatment is boric acid and borax treatment, because it is not at all harmful. Like if you have the toys, kids will have the habit of putting all the toys in the mouth. It shouldn't be harmful for them. So to avoid all that, we give boric acid, borax treatment. The artifacts has lots of insects, and it was kept in open. Even after the treatment, again and again insects were coming. So to avoid that, we have to treat with boric acid and borax. Boric acid and borax act as it's a water soluble, leachable type of treatment. But it avoids the attack of the insects. To avoid that attack, we did the boric acid and borax treatment. But here, after boric acid and borax treatment, if water or rain comes, it will leach out. So until we go for this treatment was done, so that until we go for the next treatment, it should prevent the entry of the insect. So next we treated with the CCP. In the waterborne treatment, there are 2 types: the soluble, which is leachable, and non-leachable. Fixative. CCP is the fixative type of treatment in which copper sulfate acts as a fungicide. Chromium is a fixative agent insecticide. After that, we treated this whole artifact with the CCP. Here the treatment we know that CCP we are doing, but how to do that treatment was a major trick, because the artifacts are of different shapes. Whenever we treat the wood, there are 2 things we have to remember: retention of the chemical and the penetration of the chemical. What is penetration of the chemical? You have a wood which is a solid material. If you are simply spraying the wood, the whole chemical won't go inside, and through and through treatment of the wood won't happen. So that you have to keep that wood immersed or for a longer duration in the preservative. With the preservative, this already carved structures and the long structure, it was not possible to take a container and dip it. So how you have to do? So what we did was we took the gunny bags. We tied the whole structure, 6 feet tall and 6 feet long, more than 6 feet long structures. We tied them manually with the gunny bags and sprayed the CCB over that. And this we repeated for every 2 to 3 hours and 2 to 3 times. Whenever the gunny bags get dried, you have to again spray the chemicals and you have to wait, so that your chemical has to penetrate inside the wood. See, and another major study, I was talking about the cracks and the carpenter beer. You just see how the cracks have happened. The whole thing has broken. And because of this structure, where the whole pin is totally broken, you have to repair it and restore it. There you see, that is the carpenter bee attack. So how you have to do? You have to fill that first. How you have to fill? Whenever you fill anything, you cannot simply fill with any kind of the wood. You have to see what kind of the wood is used for that particular matter, that material is of, and you have to select the wood or the wood of same species. You have to chip that, make into small pieces, then separate the those wood chips into smaller particles. The particles will be of porous particles and the softer particles. The porous particles will take more resins, and you cannot use the porous particle on the outermost layer. So you have to mix the porous particle with the resin, then you have to fill that. Again you have to take another round of softer particles, if needed coconut shell chips, all those things you have to take, mix with the resin and fill it. After filling also you cannot do the filling at one sitting. Filling you have to repeat. You have to fill half the portion, then you have to see how much it is swelling. After that filling, how much swelling is happening. So you have to wait and then decide how much you are going to fill. Like that we separated the particles, then mixed with the resin. Can you play that video? Here this is the carpenter bee attack, and you just see the height of the structure, okay? That video is enough. You see the structure, it is taller than the boy standing next to them. You have to fill that whole structure. And when we were working, no, we could even see. In that, there was a carpenter bee actually working on that. It was staying in that. He is trying to remove that carpenter bee, but it is not coming out. So then finally we, along with the carpenter bee, we fill the. So there was 3-4 carpenter bee size, like your whole finger will go inside that. That much big. Another video is also there. It was there, and you have to fill that. In that case, these are the smaller structures. We fill them mixed with the fevicol. So you just see how much that inside it is going, that nail. That rod is there, no? How much inside it is going. That much inner we have to fill the particles. So those big holes filling is it looks simple, but that time we didn't know what to do. So we were not sure what particle size we should use. So somehow it was like a trial and error. We tried and we somehow we filled that. And here you can see, there are some cross cuts are there. Those are the cuts because of the weathering. Because of the sunlight, what happens is, when sunlight falls on the wood expands. And after that, when the winter comes, again that swelling and shrinkage will happen always in the wood. With the water also same thing happens. And when the water fills inside, and when water has to go out, it breaks the structures. Especially with these woods, which are artifacts made up of the wood which is 250 years old. Just imagine, all the stability and the mechanical properties of the woods are lost. They were supposed to treat before the preparation of the artifact. They didn't do that. So it was like, okay, we are moving towards a dead end. Just we have to save that. Other than that, wood will have other kind of defects, such as fungal attacks. Some things will eat on that because of the falling of some materials or rain. The chipping out of the things will be there. And whenever this chipping out of the things will be there, there is an opening for the fungal attack. So you have to avoid that. Here comes our creosote oil treatment, or the tar oil, which was told first. The ends were coated. After that, there were small holes made up of pinhole borers that you cannot treat with any kind of chemicals. So you have to manually inject the insecticide. Just like that, you have to manually inject the insecticide inside the hole. And the other things you have to fill with the insecticidal dust along with the fillers. Fillers means nothing but sawdust particles or the coconut shell particles. That you have to mix with the insecticide, mix with the resin, depending upon what kind of resin you want, what kind of finishing you want. Accordingly, you want to marine grade plywood or the epoxy resin or the melamine resin, what you want, that you have to decide, and accordingly you have to mix with the resin and you have to apply. After application, you have to give the shape which was there initially. So after that, we are using oil treatment. We did the water treatment both leachable and fixed. We did the tar oil treatment. Now we are left with water treatment. Why water treatment is given when we have already given the CCB? Any idea? No. What is the relationship with the water and the oil? Oil repels the entry of the water. It acts as a protective cover. And many of these oils like neem oil and the currant oil have the insecticidal properties. So whenever the cracks is there, if you fill the oil with that, it won't, it repel the entry of the, it prevent the entry, direct absorption of the water inside that wood material. To avoid that, we are using the water treatment, oil treatment. So we use neem oil and the currant oil. You can remember that artifact which is there. I have showed you where the biggest crack was there. After filling, that was the final structure. We filled all the gaps, we filled all the cracks with the wax, and then we treated with the CCB, and then we treated with the oil. See, you see the height of the structure? Just imagine what would have been the challenge for that. And why? This was most important because oil treatment, this was kept in the garden. Garden is the area where always there will be a presence of water and it will be always moist. So the chance of attack will be always more. So to avoid that, we had the oil treatment. After that, then the varnish treatment. This is how it looks before and after. See how many cracks were there in this mother family structure. This lowermost structure is there, no? That is called as family structure. The one was before treatment, one is after treatment. And this is the fish which was in a very bad shape. If you see that first picture, the fin of the fish was totally removed and kept aside. And the whole inside hole was carved by the insect and there was lots of insects staying in that. So we have to fill that, fix the fin, and final product was like this. So it was brought back to the earlier structure. In conclusion, we can tell that artifacts treatment based upon the type of the wood which was used for the preparation of the artifact itself. Then depending upon the condition where the artifact was placed, depending upon that you have to decide the treatment protocol. And the wood treatment is not once. If it is kept in the open air, you have to always monitor the artifacts or the wood material for the treatment. This is one kind of that. But if you have a difficult situation like this, where one portion is fallen off and you don't know how to totally repair it. So here we did the same thing, cleaning. Here you can see the cracks now, how big cracks were there. If you allow that cat to remain like that, over the period of 2 or 3 years, it completely broke and fall off. So you have to fasten that with the help of screw. Then you have to fill that with the fillers, then treat it. And here we use 2 things, coconut shell powder and wood particles along with the marine water grade Fevicol. So we filled all those inner structures with the porous particle. To give the smooth finish, we filled it with the coconut shell mixed with the Fevicol. Then we don't know how it looked initially. We don't know. Only thing we know is it was the bird statue, butt statue. So we have to take the measurement. You have to calculate based upon its body size what will be its beak. Then you have to prepare the beak by giving the reinforcement. Reinforcement means you have to give some structure so that it can hold and remain for the longer time. Here We gave the reinforcement initially with the iron nails. So we decided the amount of the beak, how long it should be, where the depression should go. So accordingly we placed the nail. Then manually we prepared the beak. But only with the iron rods you are not supposed to, you can't give the proper reinforcement. So what we use, that white color, it's the glass mesh and the glass fibers. Those two things, glass fibers and the glass mesh, are used to give the reinforcement in any kind of plywood or the panel wood structures. So we used the glass mesh, we gave the another level of reinforcement so that the beak should be holding. Over that manually we prepared the beak, then we gave the final touch to that beak. Then we have next step piece, we have to varnish it. After varnish, this is how it looks, before and the after. So however, we tell now wood treatment is easier, but there are lots of things involved. I just took the example of only wood artifacts. Then you have the structural timbers, plywood and panel woods. Different kind of materials are there, and depending with the material, your treatment, and depending upon your end users, treatment protocols and the duration will vary. Thank you. Any doubts? Yes. See, we have to see where it was placed. See, that's why I took this initially, what kind of preservative we have to use. You know that the artifacts were kept in the outside. So you need something which will prevent the water absorption for the longer time. Then you know that the insects were attacking that. You need something which will prevent the insect attack. You know that fungus was attacking. You need something which will prevent the fungus entry also. So that's why we went for CCP. So you decide what kind of insects are attacking your artifact and what can be the future attack. Like you have to see the seasons, how the weathering will change, and what might be the other appearing organisms according to season. According to that you have to decide. When it comes to wood, there is one always saying, always before using the wood you just decide what is the end use and what is the product you are going to, where you are using it. That is the main thumb rule we tell. Whenever we are using the wood, for that only, if any wood comes into the India, we have to test that in Indian condition. That also not at one position, 6 locations, because India is a big country with different climatic conditions. We have to test that, then only approval comes, if it stays in that particular area. The wood preservation is always species specific, location specific.
And is there any case related to the household wood management within these?
Yes, there are. Because if you see the Hyderabad, there is one institute which exclusively related to this structural wood treatment.
What is the endurance then? Lifespan of these protection agents?
Protection?
How long it will give the protection?
That is also depend. But usually these chlorophyllipos are used to give the long protection.
No, I'm speaking about this one.
Okay, wood preservative. See, these will give the 2 years or 3 years. You have to repeat the treatment. That's why I told long-term monitoring is always needed. You cannot tell that, okay, you gave the treatment and okay, it's final. For the lifetime it is, okay, you cannot tell that. You have to repeat the treatment if needed. You have to observe it.